So we set off on this hike at 7:30 in the morning. It's gorgeous. I took so many pictures, wildflowers in massive bloom. It was a very hard hike. We set out and we were on our way back, and we were about a half a mile from our car. Elliot was behind me, and I heard a scream. And I turned over my shoulder, and I saw him falling over off the side of this trail. I screamed, "No, Elliot, no, no." And I ran back to where he was. I looked down. He wasn't moving.
Hand in Hand explores life's toughest moments and the resilience that carries us through. I'm your host, Amanda Spiro. Together, we'll dive into stories of grief, healing, and hope, blending timeless Jewish wisdom with personal journeys and universal truths. Let's navigate life's challenges and uncover the paths that lead us to greater meaning and connection. Welcome back. My name is Amanda Spiro. I'm the host of the Hand in Hand podcast, and today I'm very excited to be speaking with Marylyn Scheuer. She's someone who really walks the walk when it comes to faith, love, and commitment. She has built a beautiful life for herself, even when it wasn't easy. 2 years ago, her husband had a life-changing event that changed both of your lives, and the way you navigated it was truly inspiring. And I'm very excited to share your story with our audience today. Can you tell us a little bit about your Jewish journey?
I was raised in a very traditional home. Not a lot of Jewish practice, and remember very much being drawn to learn more about Judaism as a young girl. I was probably middle school aged when I asked my parents if I could please go to Hebrew school. I don't think many kids ask that question.
I was going to say, usually the other way around, where the parents are like dragging
right?
kids to go to school.
But I was 4 of 5 children, and the 3 older siblings had all gone to Hebrew school and had their bar and bat mitzvahs. And I think I had a brother who was 1 older than me, Keith, who had special needs. And I think it was so challenging at the Hebrew school, at the shul for my parents, that by the time it got to me, they were done. So I think they probably figured, oh, the girls will be fine. Me and my little sister, they don't need that. And so, as I said, I was really drawn. I knew as a Jewish person we were different, but I didn't really understand how that different looked in a life, and how I could learn and be changed by understanding more about being Jewish.
And how did that evolve as you got older?
It evolved the most in the last 30 years.
Wow.
When I moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I had been living in Colorado and Denver for 9 years before that, and I grew up in St. Louis. So I was in Milwaukee, and I met a lot of people in the Jewish community, and I was invited to homes for Shabas, and I started attending classes, and was really looking for meaning in my life. And eventually, after moving into the community that we now live in and having our first child, we stumbled upon our Chabad house, the shul in Bayside, and we've sort of never looked back. It was
the rest is history.
The best thing we ever did.
And were you and your husband on the same page? Like, how did he react initially?
We're both Jewish, and it has always been important for us to raise our children. We have 2 kids with Jewish values, but I would say Elliot is more of, maybe it's cliche, a cultural Jew.
Okay.
Where I tend to be more of a practicing, wanting to learn, seeking, understanding, delve deep kind of a Jewish person. And so we are not necessarily on the same page in terms of how we practice our Jewish lives, but it works. It works in our home.
And what does Shabas look like in your home?
So I am Shabbat observant, and the only one in my family who is. And what that looks like is it's something quite beautiful. It's just my husband and I at home now, But when my children were little, I can share a story if that's okay, about the
Absolutely.
first Shabas that I kept. It was in the winter, and I had been at a Shabbaton with our community the week before and had what I would call kind of an epiphany, where I felt like someone was speaking to me about my husband. I mean, literally a voice. Your husband is not your excuse. And I thought someone was literally over my shoulder, and I looked and there was no one there. And I thought, what does that mean? All week I was pondering, what did that mean? And I had been wanting to take steps to become more involved Jewishly and more observant. But I was afraid. I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to cause strife in the family. And that statement, that sense that came to me was very empowering. And I knew at that moment that I needed to have more trust in God, that if I took a step forward, that maybe it really would be okay. And so instead of telling all these stories about how my husband is going to react or what negative things are going to happen to my family, all week I thought about, how can I keep Shabbos this week? And I would light candles on time, but then I would cook dinner or do other things to get ready. And I thought all it takes is a little more thought and planning and intention. And so that Friday night, we were sitting at the Shabbos table, and I said to my family all at once, including my husband, this week I'm keeping Shabbos. And they said, oh, that's cool, Mom. And I think Elliot said nothing, but he didn't have a negative reaction. And from there, I said, what does that look like for us? I said, I'll be on the couch. And if you want to come and snuggle or read a book or hang out with me or play a game, that would be great. We could take walks. You know, I'm not going to play with you on your new Wii console. Wii was in at that time. But otherwise, it'll be really nice. And that Shabbos, shortly after dinner, I was in the living room and my kids were downstairs playing on the Wii. My husband had a telephone in his hand, and he walked into the living room, and he was speaking to someone from one of our investments houses, if you will. And he said, well, I need to get, my wife's in the other room. I guess they needed to speak to me to say that it was okay for him to make a certain change to an account. And he walks in the room, and I look at him.
That look.
I didn't say a word. And he has the phone and he says, excuse me, I'm so sorry. She's not available right now. And for me, that was like a sign from Hashem saying, I've got your back. Everything is fine. And from there, it's been 30 years of Shabbos dinners, my husband reciting Kiddush for us. Now he says Eishes Chayil to me, which is a new thing.
Wow.
And my kids love it. And I can't imagine my life without Shabbos or raising them without the beauty and the peace and the tranquility of what those 24 hours can be in a home.
So beautiful. And everyone keeps Shabbos in their own way. And I think the beautiful thing about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, about the Chabad movement, is that it's not all or nothing, right? It's whatever we do, we're bringing light in that moment and bringing godliness and spirituality. And that's what you did. You infused your home with so much, and it definitely spread to your children.
Thank God. And I think it's important to underscore that when I said it, I meant it. I'm keeping Shabbos this week. And the next week I said, I'm keeping Shabbos this week.
Step by step.
And each week it just grew to be something that I felt the first week like I had gone to Hawaii. And this is, Milwaukee in the winter when it's dark at 4:00. But I felt so rejuvenated. And I felt like the gerbil on the wheel, that is just running and going. I had my own business. I was working full time and raising my children, and life was really crazy. And it was the first time I felt like I really had my tank refilled completely, overflowing even, to give me the energy I needed to just move into a week with more joy and more purpose and more energy.
You're obviously a very wise woman. Something I always say is pressure takes away pleasure. And you didn't put any pressure on your family. And I think that's why they appreciated it, respected it, and allowed you to go with it.
That's a great saying. I love that.
It's a good one. It applies to so many different things. You mentioned that shalom bayis, peace in the home, is a huge priority for you. And you touched upon it a bit, but you and your husband do seem to be on different pages. How has that been?
It's so important that we recognize that every person is on a different journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that God put us together for a lot of reasons. We could go on for days talking about all the reasons I think my husband and I were brought together.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of them. I think Elliot's approach is his approach, and it is not for me to judge how he expresses his Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for children especially, if I had been raised in a religious home, if we together chose to have a Shomer Shabbos home and we raised our children that way, then that would be the expectation, and we would work together for that to happen. But I mean, he didn't marry someone that was, keeping Shabbos, mikvah.
It's a big change.
Kosher home, the holidays. That is not who he married. And so I guess I just am so grateful that he has been as accepting.
Sounds like a gem.
He is amazing and loving and supportive, never judging, never frustrated. And our kids were active, and he sort of took on that he would take them around or do what needed to be done. But interestingly, Amanda, the second week 2, I said to Elisheva, my youngest, Elisheva, would you like to try keeping Shabbos with me this week? And she said, sure, Mommy. Elisheva was Shomer Shabbos for 7 years.
Wow.
From that point.
Wow.
And now has a little bit of a different path. But that foundation of having kept Shabbos for all those years and going to shul and davening, and again, wouldn't go to school for the holidays. And that was a little hard for my husband. I remember he didn't really like that she was missing school. He is a former educator. And I would say to him, honey, it's all going to work out. You'll see. She's going to be just fine.
Right.
And I was right.
She's just fine.
She's just fine.
Yeah.
And I think for Elliot, I just give him so much credit for being open to my journey and supporting it. And now I think he looks back at our life and how our children are, who they are today, how important this Chabad community has been in raising them with us, all the ways in which they are who they are, the kind, gentle, generous, giving, lovely people that they are. And we know that so much of that comes from being part of a community where people show up for you, care about you, support you. And so I think he wouldn't have chosen this for himself. And I think looking back, he wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. I'm sure secretly he's happy.
Even not so secretly.
Yeah. Marriage is not always a Cinderella story. I always tell young brides to throw that out the window. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of investment. And you seem to be putting in the work. And so is Elliot, which is tremendous. And I think it's so important that it's not always about being right. Like I said, you didn't put that pressure. You weren't like, no, this is the right thing. We need to do this. It's really about being happy in a marriage and communication and connection. And Shalom Bayis is everything. So if you've managed to have peace in the home with so much change, I think it shows a big testament to the type of woman you are.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the accident 2 years ago, right? July 1st, I believe. Do you mind bringing us back to that day?
It was July 1st, 2023. We had gone to Colorado. We were there for a family wedding. We stayed, extended the trip, and we were camping with my younger sister and her husband and his family. And we were just having the best time. And we parted ways, and we had, I think, 2 or 3 days left of our trip. So Elliot had been on this particular trail many, many years ago. It's called the Big South, and it's near Rocky Mountain National Park. Okay. And Elliot, I have to just give you a little backstory, is a very experienced hiker and backpacker. He takes people on backpacking trips and teaches people how to backpack. He is like the
Adventurous.
Energizer bunny. He can hike all day with weight, 40, 50 pounds on his back, and he never seems to tire. So we set out for this trail on Saturday morning. We had a beautiful Shabas dinner the night before, and I just want to rewind a little bit that
Go ahead.
I was so happy. I had retired in November prior.
Mm-hmm.
Elliot had retired in 2020, and we were really living our best life.
Honeymoon stage.
Yeah, it was so great. Both
Mm-hmm.
kids
Mm-hmm.
doing great and out of the house. And I was in tears Friday night from joy.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like Hashem is so good to me. I have the most perfect life. I could not ask for more. And just overwhelmed with gratitude. So we set off on this hike at 7:30 in the morning. It's gorgeous. I took so many pictures, wildflowers in massive bloom,
Mm-hmm.
raging river below, waterfalls. It was a very hard hike. And we had, I think, planned to go about 8 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So we set out and we were on our way back, and we were about a half a mile from our car. And Elliot was behind me, and I heard a scream. And I turned over my shoulder, and I saw him falling over off the side of this trail. We were way up high. I screamed, "No, Elliot, no, no." And I ran back to where he was. I looked down, and I could see him, and he was laying down on his face.
Mm.
The river just 3 feet from where he was. He wasn't moving. I'm screaming to him. He can't hear me because it's so loud.
Right.
When all of a sudden he lifts his left arm just a few inches off of the slate rock, and I knew he was alive. I sort of went into just practical mode, and I thought and said, "Thank you, Hashem. He's alive. Now let's do this." And one of his 2 hiking poles was laying at my feet. I grabbed it. I shoved it in the ground as a marker for myself or for another hiker. I pulled out my phone. I knew we were in a no-cell area, but I still tried. The phone call would go nowhere. I started running to the trailhead, and I dropped a pin on my phone, a location marker, to get his coordinates, thinking we are in the middle of nowhere and a helicopter is going to be coming, and they need to know where they're coming. I had just learned how to drop a pin the day before. If you asked me to do it right now, I'm sure it would take me a while to figure it out. And so I don't know how in that moment I knew what to do. My mind was racing with prayers to God, and also telling myself, do not trip, do not get hurt. You have to go slow but fast. And I made it to the trailhead. We were a half a mile. There was no one in the parking lot. I waved a car down, and it kept going. I waved another car down, and thank God they stopped. And I told them that Elliot fell 50 feet. And that was my estimate, and I was right. That's what the report said. There had been a fire station up the road, and so I said, go there and get help. When I came back into the parking lot, there happened to be a group of 4 men who had just gotten out of their car. It was about 2:05 when he fell, so it's probably 2:20 by now. And I told them what happened, and 2 of them got back in the car and went in the other direction to try to get cell service. They were from the area, and the other 2 said, we'll come with you back up the trail. We hiked back up, and as we started to go up, another hiker came running down. He was screaming, hiker down, hiker down. And I said, I know, it's my husband. And he said, I will wait here for the rescue team, and I will make sure that they get back to where you are. So we hiked back up. We found the spot, and I sat down and I prayed. I recited Tehillim by heart. I recited every prayer I could remember. I covered my face. I talked to Hashem, and I just begged him to save Elliot's life and to give both of us the strength to get through what I knew was going to be
not an easy journey.
A not easy road ahead. It was another hour before the first team arrived, 2 hours before the first paramedic was there, who I didn't ever speak to that day, but later Elliot and I were able to speak to him and thank him and hear a little bit about what he needed to do to save Elliot's life. I was getting word from different people of the state that he was in, which was pretty poor. And then a helicopter hovered. I was scared to death of where they were going to take him. And I was praying, like, please, God, take him somewhere that will have the capacity to deal with the injuries that he must have sustained. 68 years old at this point. So Elliot had just turned 67 around this accident, or 66. And no sooner do I pray those words that 2 men from the helicopter come right up to me and look me in the eyes and tell me that they are taking him to a level 1 trauma center in Loveland, Colorado. It's an amazing hospital. It's where they both work, and it's where they would take their family. And I said, thank you, Hashem. In all, there were 40 rescuers. It took until 5 o'clock before Elliot was up on the trail where I was. They had to lock ropes in above us, climb a mountain above us, to drop ropes to the trail we were on, to then drop ropes all the way the 50 feet. They put him in a basket and had to pull him up with one of the rescuers attached to him, pulling him and making sure he wasn't banging too much. After they brought Elliot up, I had a moment to speak to him. He was conscious, in and out of consciousness, and I was able to tell him that I loved him and I was here with him and I would meet him at the hospital and we were going to be okay. It was 5:30 before he was in an ambulance at the base. They had to do a blood transfusion. He wasn't stable enough even for the flight for life. Then they drove him to the helicopter and he took a $75,000 helicopter ride that he doesn't remember. He says he wants to do it again.
To make that happen.
To the hospital where, we began his journey of recovery.
What has his recovery look like?
Elliot broke his neck, the first vertebra, and thank God that was an incomplete injury. He broke T3, T4, and T5 in his thoracic spine, and that did cause a spinal cord injury. He had a massive concussion, massive fractures to the right of his face, damage to his eye, 14 broken ribs, a collapsed lung, a right wrist that was compound fractured, a left elbow that had what's called an avulsion fracture, and, brain injury. So when we got to the hospital, I was able to speak to Elliot. I couldn't believe he was actually conscious. He was in tremendous pain. And he actually said, I really messed up. And I said, that
must have been hard to hear.
Honey, they call that an accident.
Right.
You didn't mess up. And the neurosurgeon came in the middle of the night to kind of tell us what he thought was going on and what he felt needed to be done. So Elliot had, I can't remember the name of the surgery, but they reconstructed his back with a rod. His neck did not need to be surgically repaired, but he was in a neck collar for 12 consecutive weeks, never, ever 1 second without it. And they had to reconstruct his face, fix the bones under his eye to hold his eye in place, and repair his wrist. The first surgery took place the next day, and he was intubated, obviously, from the surgery. But when they went to extubate Elliot, he failed. He couldn't breathe on his own. So he was intubated for 3 more days. He was able to feel all parts of his body except his right leg. So from the very beginning, we knew that his right leg could very well be paralyzed. He could think about his leg. He could feel the touch, but he couldn't move it. He couldn't connect his brain. And so that was obviously a very, very scary prospect. And the surgeon, was most nervous, not about the surgery itself, but about moving Elliot, about flipping him over from his back to his stomach. And so he made it very clear to me that there is no chance for his life without the surgery, but I may actually cause, could be complete paralysis. And thank God that did not happen. Mm-hmm. He did move his toe about 3 days later, and we were just screaming and crying with joy. And it took about 10 days before that leg was moving a little bit in all places. Even in the ICU, which Elliot was in for 4 straight weeks, he barely ever sat up. I think they had him stand 3 times, sat him up a few times. And just to give you a little bit of the essence of who Elliot is and why I believe he is where he is today, which is doing quite well considering. As soon as he was extubated, he said, "When are we starting PT?" Can you imagine? I mean, he couldn't move. He couldn't move an inch by himself. And he wanted to know when they were going to start therapy on him so that he could get back to the best version of himself that was possible.
And how were you throughout this process? I can't imagine it being easy. I know you mentioned when we spoke briefly that you were studying Hayom Yom. This happened after he went through his accident.
Hayom Yom came later. Hayom Yom's a newer part of my life, actually just the last 4 months.
Right.
But I had been really connected with Tehillim particularly and davening and
prayer and Psalms.
And when it was, obviously, I wasn't calling my rabbi and rebbitzin because I recognized it was Shabas. And so it waited until it was past Shabas in Milwaukee, and I called Rabbi Chesky and Rebbitzin Chava, and I told them what happened. And I said, start a Tehillim group now. Everybody, please send this to anyone you know, everyone you know. We need Tehillim for Elliot immediately. And they did, and our whole community jumped on board, and people were reading around the clock. And from there, I started posting on this WhatsApp chat daily what was going on with Elliot, his progress, his struggles. And I did that because I knew that if people were engaged with us, if they felt they were walking this journey with us, then they would be more likely to read Tehillim for him, or to give tzedakah for him, or to do a mitzvah in his merit. And so it was really hard to do that. It's not like I had the time. I felt so vulnerable to do that. But I knew that they cared, and that if it were me and I was reading Tehillim for someone, I would want to know how they were doing. And so that was my connection outwardly to the community. And they really showed up for us. They would text beautiful messages, and I would read them all to Elliot. And I will tell you, Amanda, as crazy as it was what we were going through, I felt so strong. I felt calm. I felt resolute in what my mission was. I stayed very present. I would not let myself go
think about the future,
to the what ifs. I just said, what is what is. We are here. We are here for a reason. And we need to understand what that is, and just celebrate everything we can celebrate, and be grateful for everything we could be grateful for. And that is how I got through it and grew through it, this incredible experience. And Elliot as well.
Wow. And since then, I believe you started a class that you have lots of followers and lots of people that listen to you. So tell us a little bit about that.
So, that's a really recent story. It was, I used to study Hayom Yom, and...
You want to tell the audience a little bit about Hayom Yom?
Oh, yeah. Hayom Yom is a book that the first book the Rebbe published. And it was in 1943, and it was before he was the Rebbe. So the Rebbe Riots, the previous Rebbe, they had come to America from the Holocaust. And they the previous Rebbe knew that America isn't different than the shtetl, and that we need to make sure that the light and beauty of Hasidus is spread, and that people have a way to digest it in sort of tiny bites. That was pretty forward thinking, because, we know today people can read very little at a time before they seem to lose attention.
Yeah.
And so he says this to his son-in-law. And so the Rebbe spends the next year putting this compilation of Hasidic ideas and lessons and wisdom into a book with a different idea for every day. And this book was published and shared on the 19th of Kislev, Yud Tes Kislev, which is the yahrzeit of the Mittler Rebbe, if I'm getting this correct. No, the Maggid of Mezrich.
Right.
Yes, it's the yahrzeit of the Maggid of Mezrich, and it is the day that the Alter Rebbe was released from prison.
The first Lubavitcher Rebbe. Right.
Yes, and so after having read this book in the past but haven't touched it in a couple of years, it was a Friday evening, and I had lit Shabbos candles, and I went into my living room to look for something to read. I was going to read the Chumash, but I wanted something inspirational as well. Not that Torah isn't inspirational, but I was like, what else do I want to read?
Right.
And my hand went to the Hayom Yom. And I read it, and I was really connecting to the message on the 19th of Kislev without realizing the history behind it, without understanding that this is kind of special, that I was drawn to this book on the very day that this book was written. And I was the next morning, Shabbos morning, when I read the 20th of Kislev, the Hayom Yom, when I realized how powerful that was. I shared it with a few of my Rebbitzin friends, and
you became a Rebbitzin yourself.
And one of them, yeah. So someone says, "You're the Rebbitzin of the Rebbe." I'm not saying you're the Rebbitzin's Rebbitzin.
Right.
Yes. And so my friend Hayom Yom said, well, if you're going to learn Hayom Yom, I want you to share it with me. And we had gone to a Nishe Chabad event, and we were all to make a hachlata that night. And I laughed. It was like, yes, I think I know what resolution I'm taking. It's pretty clear to study Hayom Yom. And so I immediately, when Chaya said, I want you to teach me, I will be honest with you, my mind was racing with all kinds of negative thoughts. Like, who am I to teach her? What could she learn from me? I'm just
Everyone
me.
has something to teach someone.
You're a Rebbitzin. You're somebody that grew up Chabad. You've been educated your whole life. I mean, I really thought, this is crazy. I can't do this. And so instead of saying no, what popped into my head was, one of the teachings of the Rebbe is like, you are in a certain place at a certain time for a certain reason. And that it is really our job to look for opportunities to do good, to bring light to this world. And so I looked at her and I said, okay, I'm in. I'm going to do this.
Wow.
And so that night, one other person heard the story and asked to join, my friend Mashi Frankel. And so we were 3. And from 3, we grew, and more people heard about it.
And how many people are now?
We have 81.
Wow, you're going to have 82 after this podcast.
I hope so,
I'm
Amanda.
Join.
You must.
I absolutely will. Yeah.
So I share it on a voice note, and I've learned so much, and it's changed my life. Just taking the time, not just to read it and check it off my list. I did that today. I'm done. But because if I'm sharing it, I have to understand it.
Right.
And I want to be able to say it in a way that I own. And if I feel that there's something I can add personally, then I do that as well. And I've gotten some beautiful feedback that people love it. So not to set the bar too high.
I'm sure it's great.
But do join. And if you like it, great. And if not, that's okay too. I'm going to keep doing it because I feel like I was called to do this.
I don't know if you remember, but what you were saying when we went to the Rebbe today, to the Ohel, we were watching a video. And it was talking about this idea that you need to learn, and learning is power, but to really apply what you learn. And it sounded like that's something that you really did. You really wanted to internalize what you were learning and to share it with others. And now you're like one with these teachings.
It transforms you. I mean, just to spend 5 minutes a day on learning something from the Torah. And it could be reading Tehillim, and it could be reciting Hayom Yom. It could be a number of things. Tanya,
everyone connects to something different, which is so beautiful because there's so much.
It's endless.
Yeah.
Endless light and beauty.
Yeah. The Rebbe said, I believe it was the Frierdiker Rebbe, if we only knew the power of Tehillim, of saying Psalms, we'd be saying it all day, all night. It really is powerful, which is why when someone's not well or someone needs some sort of blessing, that we all jump into Tehillim and we get everyone involved.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is why I started reading Tehillim over 10 years ago. I read that statement and I thought, oh my gosh, sign me up. Really? That's it? Like if it's that powerful,
right?
It's transforming us. It's transforming our souls. It's helping the world.
Mm-hmm.
When I wanted people to read Tehillim for Elliot, Amanda, that's all I could think of was that not only are they helping him, they're helping me as well, but they're helping themselves.
Right.
They're bringing the light of Hashem, Torah, to their home, to their lips, to their actions. It's going to transform them.
Right.
And so I just felt like I am in this place with Elliot to do this work.
Right.
To teach people about the power of Tehillim and community.
Mm-hmm.
And that when we come together for someone else, we cannot possibly know what transformative effect it will have on them. But I could stand there with such truth to say, you saved us. When October 7th happened and we were all feeling like, what can we do? And how does what I do here in America matter there? And people would say it matters, read Tehillim. Right. And that's when it really clicked for me that I felt it. Don't think for 1 second that you're saying Tehillim isn't affecting someone. It is giving them the strength and the clarity and the ability to move forward with such faith and trust that they are where they need to be and where they're supposed to be. There's no words.
When we go through these challenges, we can't possibly do it on our own. We need a community to help us through. You know, and you were also talking about being present when you were going through what you went through. It's impossible to think of the future when you're going through that, but most people do, right? And that's where they get stuck. And the Rebbe also spoke about this idea that when we're going through things, we can't be like hyper-focused on hyper-reflection, that we do need to like go out of ourselves and help others. And that's something you did also just by creating that group. I'm sure you've helped so many people, and in turn, it helped you. And that's the idea. You know, sometimes we just want to do nothing when we're in these hard times, but by doing, it really like it breeds confidence, you know, within that it's going to be good. If we're doing good, it's going to be good.
I want to share something,
Please,
if you don't mind, that also just
you have so much wisdom
from, you know, one of the Rebbe's teachings was that this accident happened on Saturday. I was speaking to my sister Judith and my son Jason, and they wanted to come right away. And they came that Thursday. So just within 5 days of this accident. And my sister Judith, who lived in Milwaukee at the time, said to me, what can I bring? I'll go to your house. I'll get whatever you need. And I said, I need 2 things, a tzedakah box and coins. And that was it. And of course, Jason brought a couple things as well. But I knew that if we use this space to share the importance of the mitzvah of giving tzedakah, of just the action of taking a coin and putting it in a charity box for someone else, the healing effect of that and the power of it. And so every doctor and nurse and aide and tech who came into that room, and there are a lot in ICU, I would tell them about it. And they were so happy to put coins in. And some would say, oh no, I don't have any money with me. And I'd say, there's a bowl of coins, take it. Right. It's, you know, part of it is,
it's not even how much you give, it's just by giving.
It's just the act. And think as you do this, that you're, you know, praying for Elliot's complete recovery. Well, that next Shabas, you will not believe, Amanda, what the Rebbe's video was, the Living Torah. It was about bringing the tzedakah box
in your kitchen.
In a hospital. That was the story for the week.
Wow.
Which I could not believe.
Very special.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Elliot's connection to God was very much about nature. Did that change once he had the accident?
That's very astute. I actually didn't say that, and it is true. Elliot that's where he finds his connection to God, is in the mountains outside. Has it shifted? I'm going to say yes. I think I mentioned earlier that Elliot now says Ashes Chayil to me every Friday night. And
woman of valor.
Yes, a woman of valor. I should only live to be worthy of such words every week.
Worthy.
and so I think he is more sensitive to God's power in this world, that he recognizes that he's still alive and there's a reason he's alive. And he recognizes that obviously God wanted him to live or he wouldn't be here today.
Right. That he still has a purpose and mission in this world.
Absolutely. And I think he's more thankful than ever, even though he's always been a person who's practiced a lot of gratitude and expression of that gratitude. Now it is, I think, even more forefront. And I do believe that he's more comfortable today, with my expression of Judaism, even than he was before.
Has it inspired him to take on anything else?
He comes to shul more. He is definitely more connected with the community. He's learning with Rabbi Svi Tornik in our shul, and he's definitely taken really positive and beautiful steps.
And how has your emunah, your faith, changed throughout everything? Has it deepened?
Yes, very much so. I have such trust and faith that everything that happens for a reason. And even Elliot, who isn't, learning Torah like I am into learning Torah
I'm sure
right
you're
now.
Teaching him plenty, though.
Just
by being you.
From the minute this happened, he never once said, "Why did this happen to me?" Elliot understood that everybody goes through difficult things in life. And he saw this as a time in a life that he would call nearly perfect, amazing parents, siblings that he adores and, is best friends with. A marriage that is wonderful, 2 children that give us just so much nachas. And he said it was my turn. And I think he used the word to get punched in the mouth. And I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. Everybody goes through hard things in life. And Elliot felt that he was going through this for a reason and not that he should have done something different. He never said, gosh, what would be if we didn't get up that day and hike? What if we had a headache and we didn't feel up to it? Never. He just understands that God runs the world.
Which is huge.
We are exactly where we need to be, where we were supposed to be, and doing what God needs of us at this time in our lives.
I think a lot of people think they're invincible, that nothing's going to happen. They're like untouchable until they're touched. And then it's very hard. But I think he had this awareness that, this is part of life and things happen. And I'm sure all the inspiration that you brought into the home also really helped him go through his challenge.
And not to be a victim. It's okay to cry for someone else's suffering. We did not cry for our own. We were not suffering. I know that to people at home, we were gone for 3 full months, 13 weeks. We were in Colorado from the ICU to then 5 weeks in a rehab center for traumatic brain injury and spinal cord injury, and then 4 more weeks outpatient in that same rehab center called Craig Hospital. It's amazing. We felt like, weirdly, we were in this bubble of bliss. We were just so connected and so focused on what we needed to do for his healing. We had 2 kids that were home that we were still, taking care of. They're not fully independent yet. They're in that in between college, law school stage. In fact, my son was headed off to Israel and was in Israel on October 7th while we had just gotten home from Colorado. So that was a very obviously scary and stressful time for us. But yeah, we were very aware that we were just where we were supposed to be.
There's this shliach of the Rebbe, Rabbi Hurwitz, who has ALS. I'm not sure if you ever heard of him, right? And he's done incredible work, even in his state. And his wife speaks a lot about the pit, that when you're in dark times, those are the times that you get the most strength, and that prepares you for everything else that you have to go through in life, right? That now you have new tools because you have to learn each and every time you enter the pit how to get out of the pit, like how to get more resilient and stronger. And unfortunately, these challenges are so difficult, but they do make us stronger as people, and it's so important that I see that you're doing that you're giving strength to others and sharing your resilience. And even this podcast, I know, will help so many people that, are going through similar challenges.
God willing. I mean, we do not grow without challenge. When I think of the word coasting along, when you're coasting, there's no friction.
Right.
And
there's no growth.
It's only through friction, through difficult struggles, that you realize what you're made of.
Right.
And if you had asked me, 5 years ago, if this happened, what would you do? I would probably say freak out completely.
Right.
Be paralyzed myself.
This.
I don't know that I would have said, I can't deal with things like hospital stuff, needles make me want to pass out. I didn't know how strong I was. There was a quote in one of the hospital rehab rooms that said, you never know how strong you are until strong is your only choice. Right. And Elliot really appreciated that quote. And it's true. And I was not the one doing all the work. He was the one who had to learn how to talk again, learn how to walk again, feed himself, how he grew to become independent again, when there were months when I dressed him and showered him and did everything for him. And I mean everything. And so, just as the olive, right, that is squeezed makes the most incredible, beautiful olive oil, that, can you imagine our world without olive oil?
No.
I can't.
Yeah.
We too can see what happens in our life as a gift and a blessing, or we can see it as a curse.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I choose to see things as a gift. And I am always looking for the gifts. And I was really like this before, but now I am even more hyper attuned to the miracles around me all the time. I mean, it's a miracle every day that we're here. It's a miracle that we can breathe on our own, that we can stand up without thinking about it and start walking. These are all things that we take for granted.
Right. Most people don't think about these things on a daily, but it's so important.
When you go through something like this, when every bit of your independent agency is stripped from you from one second to the next, you don't take anything for granted anymore.
Right. And sometimes these situations are very uncomfortable, even just to grow and to have to do the work. But we have to learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's really where we grow, and that stretches us to where we need to be. I
love that idea. It's so true. Instead of shying away from things that are difficult or challenging, to really just lean in. I mean, we don't, I wouldn't wish on anybody what happened to us.
Right.
But we went through this. We were in this. And so we chose to see the light, and we chose to see the gifts, and we chose to laugh, and we cried every day too. We've never been closer, and we've never felt closer to the people around us.
So beautiful.
And I do remember something I was going to say earlier when I did lose my train of thought. And please. That is that we would sit in the hospital room, and I would say, Elliot, we're so into being grateful. And I said, how many families do you think are sitting at home thinking, thank God we're not the Scheuers?
Right.
I said, and at least they're thanking God. Like they're grateful to not be us. And so
you're just so grateful to be.
Yes, we got such a kick out of that. Like they're saying, thank God we're not them.
Right.
But we were just so thankful that we get more time together. And our children are, I think, unusually resilient for other reasons besides this, but it affected them as well. Very much so.
And where's Elliot now? Like, how has he recovered?
Yeah. So in so many ways, he's wonderful and amazing. He is able to do everything on his own, including drive. He is independent. He pushes himself every single day to get stronger. He has issues with balance. And the biggest issue is that he has chronic pain. And so he lives in a state of pain literally every waking moment. And it is in his back where the spinal cord injury occurred. He also has a lot of nerve pain in the front area, like a band around this spinal cord injury. And so we don't know yet how to correct this. We're not sure. We have explored many different therapies and modalities, and we're open to trying new things. We talk about it a lot. And so it's very hard.
It's hard to watch, I'm sure.
It's hard to watch. It gives me so much additional respect for my husband, who is so kind and optimistic and sweet and patient. And I don't know about you, but when I'm hurting, I'm probably not my best self.
Right.
And it's one thing to have a bad day, where you have the flu and your body aches, or you're sick for a week.
Will get better.
But this is unending. And unfortunately, it's increased. His pain has increased over time. I pray every single day that Elliot should be free from pain and completely recovered. And I'm not going to stop praying for that. And I won't stop researching, and he won't stop trying. And God willing, it's just time. We just need time, and we just need patience, and he'll be himself completely again in that, in all ways.
You've talked about love being healing, which I love. I'm sure you know the Beatles, right? All you need is love. And it's so true. But what does that really mean to you?
Oh my goodness, love. I mean, we're supposed to, the hardest mitzvah, love your fellow Jew as yourself. And I'm a believer that the first person you have to love is yourself. And I think I've spent a lifetime learning about self-love. And now at this stage of my life, I am finally in a place where I think I get that. I think I get that God created me. And if I have a spark of God within me and I love God, then I'm pretty great too, right? Awesome. And so I have an expanded appreciation for self-love and love for others, love for my husband, love for my family, love for life. And I think it's all rooted, Amanda, in gratitude. I think that when you are grateful for what you have, you draw more love and beauty to your life, more blessings, more brachas. And if you're not grateful, I don't think you can be happy, and I don't think you can experience authentic love.
People are searching for happiness, like trying to pursue happiness, but happiness comes from within, and it's a lot of work. And you seem to be putting it all in, and it's showing. I want to do everything you do. I want to be just like you.
I'm sure you already do.
You mentioned that you are part of the Hevra Kadisha, the Burial Society. You've been doing this for how many years?
I did it when my children were young, and I was so busy that I was rarely available. When they would call. I would have a commitment. You get the call, it's the next day.
Right.
But I joined again since we came back from
And how has this
Colorado.
influenced your view on life? And
wow, in so many ways. It is such holy work. It's hard to put into words what it feels like to be in that space and to be preparing a body for burial. The last act of love that we can give a fellow Jew in this lifetime. And you're wrapping them in, like physically and spiritually in holy light and love. And it is such a privilege and honor. The Chevra Kadisha women's group in Milwaukee is an incredible, beautiful group that I feel very, very privileged to be part of. And it's something I'm learning. I'm learning a lot. I always go into that room with such humility and always like, there's 3 of us. I'm always the third, just tell me how to help, where you need me. And in time, God willing, I'll be more confident in my role and in all the different aspects of what we're doing. But
it's such a mitzvah because it's anonymous, right? You're really doing this from the goodness of your heart.
Completely.
You also mentioned that if it was up to you, you would totally go all the way with your connection to Hashem. You'd want to do everything. So how have you been able to find that balance?
There are times that I feel I really struggle with wanting more, to do more, to serve Hashem, and feeling like I'm not doing enough. This might sound crazy because the Torah demands a lot of us, but I really feel like the opposite. Like Hashem expects so little of us and gives us so much. I mean, he gives us life. He gives us a beautiful world. He gives us the Torah. He gives us wisdom and a way, a path. We're not flailing. We've got what to learn and what steps to take and structure to help shape and guide our life. So sometimes I feel like I should be doing more. And when I feel like that, I have some very special Rebbetzin friends that I share that angst with, and they assure me that I am making good choices and doing the right things, and that Shalom Bayis is super foundational and important, and that is a true guidepost for me. And so I take little steps, and I'm always asking Hashem to help me fulfill my purpose in this lifetime and to really achieve my ultimate potential. I think we have no idea how unlimited our potential is.
Right.
And I want it not for myself and not for ego and not for to be great in anybody's eyes, but just in the sense of if there's more that I can do and I need more confidence for that, or I need to be directed in a certain way or path, then please show me, Hashem, because I want to do what is right for my life, for where I am, for my family.
Right.
And I think that's all each of us is supposed to ask ourselves.
What would you say to someone who has like a similar struggle, who's on a different page than their husband, is yearning to do a bit more, but is also just trying to find that balance? What would be your words of wisdom?
I think respect. Just respect each other and recognize that there is one judge, and that is God. And so when you realize that it's not your job to change someone else, it's not your job to judge them, for sure. It sort of takes, weirdly, the pressure off of you. You know, it helps you realize that every person is doing their life the way they need to do their life. And of course we can't hurt each other. And, we're assuming that we're all being, there's respect and kindness, but just to know that if you are authentically you and you show up in your life with kindness and with patience and with an open mind, with curiosity, with empathy, all the qualities that, you want someone to treat you with, but you are that way, then of course that's what you're going to bring out in the people that you're with. There's no question. We're mirrors.
Yes.
So you just be who you want the people around you to be. And you will see a transformation, I think, of attitude and energy, and you'll feel it in your home. It's okay to be on a different page. I think for my kids to be honest, to
Probably
see
the best thing for them, to see how you guys dealt with everything that came your way.
They see that we love each other. They see that we have each other's backs, that we're always on the same page. They think we're always on the same page. I mean, we know that's not true, right? Behind closed doors, we may disagree on
kids
a
don't
certain
need to know everything.
Right, a certain way of raising them or just a certain situation. But to them, we were always one.
Right.
And that's even with me doing Jewish differently.
Right.
So they see that as a real plus, that there are two people that live in this home that love and respect each other and give each other the space to be who they need to be.
Right.
And when you give someone space, when we're humble, right? We're not that far off from Pesach, but so that thought of, being humble and not holding too much space.
Right.
When you hold too much space, there's no space for the other.
We have to push our egos to the side sometimes. Yeah.
So
and marriage, like you said, is all about oneness, right? So by hurting someone else, you're really hurting yourself. So it's so important to be kind and to be respectful.
And I mean, I also pray. I pray for what I want.
Right.
I pray for how I hope we will grow together as individuals, as a couple, as a family. I mean, you can pray. Just ask God for what you need, for what you want, but also be grateful for what you have. Right? You can do both. Strive and dream and think big. Manifest. I love that. Yes, manifest and be thankful for exactly where you are.
Right. You sound like such a strong, resilient, powerful woman. And, not everyone has that strength that you're sharing with us. Like, where do you think you get it from? Where do people find it?
I'm going to give some credit right now to my mother. My mother is very resilient, has been through a lot of difficult things in her life, having a child with special needs who passed away, oh my goodness, 25 years ago. 30 years ago. He was 35 years old. My brother Keith. And so I think I learned a lot from my mother. She also is a person who always practiced gratitude. And that is such an important quality and something that has to be taught. It is not a given that people are just going to be grateful in life. I think we have to teach our children gratitude and how to express it. But back to my mom, she is a person who taught us to ask for what you need, to stand up for who you are, to believe in yourself. And she has been my greatest cheerleader, outside of my husband in my life. And so I think I got a lot of strength just from being raised by my mother. And of course, Hashem, my relationship with God. I just feel such a connection that knowing that everything that happens for a reason and that there is no punishment here. I was not being punished. I was put in a situation for a reason. And if I'm praying to God every day to help me fulfill my purpose, well, maybe my purpose was to save my husband's life and to help him grow strong again. Everybody is going to get their strength from something different. But I think as Jewish people, we are all tapped in. It is there for all of us to uncover if we aren't yet feeling a very real daily relationship with God. We can work towards that if it's something we want.
Right.
And
God's craving that. He's craving to have a relationship with all of the Jewish people.
Yes.
So I think that's really important for someone going through something, to just engage in this relationship, like one mitzvah at a time. And that will really help with their healing process.
I want to add to that too,
Please.
Community. Chabad is synonymous with community. I don't know how different this would have looked without our Chabad community. As I said earlier, they showed up for us. They were there for us every step of the way with phone calls and texts and meals and cards and gifts and visits. I had the day after the accident, I look up and who was walking into the ICU room, Rabbi Chesky Edelman, who I had called at 10 p.m. the night before. Can you imagine? He got on a plane the next morning and he came. He didn't ask, can I come? He didn't say, should I come? And following him was Rabbi Stein and Rabbi Shapiro and Rabbi Mendel Schmatkin, and they all came, and some of them came more than once. And so where did I get my strength? Where did my strong come from? It came from community. It came from the Tehillim. It came from people thinking of us and their intentions for our well-being. I know I felt it. I was surprised. My strength surprised me.
Right. So you mentioned that you didn't realize how strong you were until you had to be. Was there anything else you noticed throughout this journey?
Life is just so interesting. There is no promise for tomorrow. And so though I've read a lot and heard a lot about mindfulness, it's, kind of a buzzword.
But
the
it's
last
a Jewish
several
word.
years, it's also a Jewish
Right.
word, that it is really the truth. The more present I am in my life, the more able I am to deal with whatever happens in my life. And so, that can be anything that might frustrate or upset you, or any difficult thing that you might go through. But when you're present, you have, I feel like, an extra measure of awareness and clarity and patience to deal with whatever's happening. And certainly learning Chassidus has been a huge aha for me. The richness of it, the depth of it, the wisdom of it. It's like, for me, a massage for my soul. That's how I feel.
I love that.
And I guess that's, maybe some of the things that I've learned or have tapped into more, since going through this. Just to really stay present and appreciate what I have and where I am, and to take nothing for granted, to use my time wisely, to learn things that matter.
Right.
Like what really matters.
Right. You get a lot of perspective in these
When
moments.
you see someone, and it wasn't just my husband. We spent a lot of weeks, Amanda, surrounded by people who were going through things much, much worse, if you will, than we were. And we would cry for others, for seeing young men at 25 years old in wheelchairs who were probably never going to walk again, when my husband was learning how to walk again.
Almost 70 years old.
And he would sometimes, I think, feel bad about that. And I would say, no, we'll pray for them too. And we'll, send them our love and energy, but just be thankful that you are where you are. This is where you're supposed to be. And you just can't have too much empathy or compassion for others. So I do think I'm probably a more sensitive person, maybe, than I used to be. And I'm also more apt to jump in and help someone, and realize too that there is no such thing as a small act of kindness. Anything that you do, to let someone know you're thinking of them, do it. Don't think, oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Or, oh, I don't want to bother them. Oh my gosh, bother them.
Right.
Bother someone that's going through something difficult, and let them
yes.
know that you are in their
thoughts.
Yeah. It really can uplift someone. It makes all the difference.
The Rebbe spoke about this, doing small daily acts of kindness. It could be the simplest things, like you said.
It was just in Hayom Yom a couple of days ago.
Yeah. I'm speechless. I have nothing more to say. You're unbelievable. I feel like I've gained so much sitting in this chair talking to you, so much more wisdom I have. And I'm so excited for everyone to hear this podcast and to learn so much from you. And I'm excited to have a new friend. And I hope and pray that we will continue and nurture this friendship, because you're really remarkable.
Thank you, Amanda.
You really
Thank you. You're wonderful. And I appreciate so much the opportunity to share our story And I hope that it helps one person, uplifts
help a lot
them,
more than one person.
strengthens them. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I hug you?
Yes.
You brought tears to my eyes at times. Wait. Wow, what a story. I wanted to add a couple of notes after reflecting on this episode. First, an important disclaimer about this podcast in general. This podcast features honest, personal stories that may include how someone engaged with Jewish practice, law, or traditions. The personal details of a guest story are not meant to serve as religious rulings or instructions. Jewish law is complex, and what applies to one person may not apply to another. If you're looking for guidance on how Jewish law relates to your own life, we encourage you to reach out to a rabbi who can speak to your unique situation. I enjoyed every minute of getting to speak to Marylyn. Her perspective on the challenges her family has gone through inspired me so much. Her wisdom and intuition is so evident in the way she carries herself and shares her story. Marylyn, through her journey, did what I think is one of the most challenging things a human can do. She chose to look at her husband's accident as a gift. She said the words, "We can choose to see things that happen to us as a curse or as a gift, and I choose to see this as a gift." What this reflects to me is the depth of her personal relationship with God. When we think of God as punishing, heartless, and cruel, it'd be hard to think of any painful circumstance we find ourselves in as anything but a curse. But Hasidic philosophy paints a very different image of God. There's a famous prayer in which we call God Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. Hasidus teaches that God is a father first, and much like a father often may need to do something a child may interpret as unfair, but is truly for the child's benefit. We too can relate to God in the same way. We don't understand the things that God does, but by opening a dialogue with him, by letting him know how we feel, by turning to him in times of pain, we strengthen this parent-child relationship, which in turn strengthens us. Prayer doesn't need to only happen in a synagogue, from a prayer book, or in any formal, organized way. Prayer can mean that in the midst of our day, we turn to God and we tell him how it feels to be us right in this moment, the good, bad, and the ugly. Just like Marylyn did and does on every step of her journey. Thank you, Marylyn, for sharing your story. See you again soon on Hand in Hand.